Hi, my name is Rosita Johnson, and I'm going to talk about Shakespeare in the Bush of Laura Bohanna. She is telling a story to the people of this tribe called TIVs, the people of West Africa. She's given her experience believing that the theme of Hamlet, like grief, betrayal of human nature, are universal and that anyone can understand them. However, she quickly learns that our interpretation of literature of human nature is deeply shaped by our own culture background. Um, the article really illustrates how the worldview around us impacts culture meaning. Bohemian thinks that Hamlet is a straightforward story, but the TIVs or TIVs filter it through their own society rules. For instance, ghosts. Bohemian sees harlot dressing or deceased, I shouldn't say dress, excuse me, but deceased father as a ghost. The TIVs or TIVs worldview does not include individual personality after death. So they decided that the ghost must actually be a omen sent by the evil witch. They do believe about witches. Um, the marriage, Bohemian or the Western culture here, views Queen Gertrude marrying her dead husband brother so quickly as a shocking betrayal. But the TIVs or TIBs sees it as a completely correct. In their culture, if a man dies, his brother should marry the widow so someone can care for the family. It's all about the family. Um, the thought of Clarius um, did very well. The revenge or the polygraph, the the TIVs believe that the king should have many wives, and they firmly believe a son has no right to avenge their father's death. Only the father, age mates, or peers have the authority to seek justice. It's not about the son, it's about the father. The father, um, people of his age group or people that grew up, they should be the ones to revenge their friend or family. Bohemian discovers a much deeper divine, or um, I would say a more deeper division that she initially expected. She realized that the restaurant view as a universal standard is actually just one cultural perspective. Bohemian entered the village with a ethics, ethnocentral bias within this article. Her assumption that Western literature is a ultimate standard for universal truth. Her worldview shaped her perspective because she's expected the TIVs or TIBs to naturally understand the moral dilemma of Hamlet. When they didn't, she initially felt they were missing the point, failing to see that they were simply applying their own perfect logical culture framework to the story. Challenges of the norm, looking at her own culture, she realized that the story challenge or idea of what a norm a normal or best by showing the uh, practical or principle of which shocking, like marriage or deceased spouse, symbol, their brother and sister, making perfect function sense in other society, which cultures, for instance, consider the common Westerner norms like film, handshaking, the meeting someone now, as far as bowing down to them, to use it as a signal or professionalism of respect. However, outsiders from the cultures, again, like bowing down to the elders as a custom, might perceive as handshaking as a overly aggressive, invasive, or you know, um, I would say a different worldview. Best practice for intercultural communication. For the best practice of communication across cultures is practicing activity listening without interrupting or judgment. We must realize that someone misunderstand us. It isn't a lack to intelligence. It is a difference of filtering information. For example, instead of getting frustrated when the TIVs um, re talked about the ghosts, Bohemian eventually learned to stop and ask why they viewed it the way they viewed it, allowing her to understand the ghost. Bohemian, Bohemian, excuse me, eventually learned to stop and ask why. She viewed it a way to allowing her to understand their kinship system. She learned it. She understood it. So personal experience, I compare, I relate this to as culture misunderstanding. I have observed regarding language and communication styles. For instance, me going to a restaurant with of a different culture and the foods that they have and the spices of the foods and so forth. It learned that it's different in some of their spices and so forth. Herbs and stuff can help heal the body. They help with the digestive system. Far as culture considers direct and honest, the people are there are another views of as most people look at it as rude or unconfrontational. As different people. In this article, why the TIVs or the TIBS elders were very blunt in correcting Bohemian story, different worldviews influence or perspective or way they perceive, I should say. What it meant as a helpful correction can, excuse me, easily be perceived as an insult if you do not understand their culture content. And sometimes we have to realize that when we're talking to people, we go into different places and so forth, their cultures are different from our culture. Um, I think it's a great thing to do is just ask questions and just listen. In conclusion of this sentence, of this lesson, I gained from this article is that there is no single correct way to view human behavior. Worldwide, our perspective acts as a lens that completely alter the meaning of the world and action. To be successful in intercultural communication, we must stop assuming our way is a default and learn to look through the lens of other person's window. So, again, what I'm saying is that we have to look at other people's culture as a mean of understanding who they are. They're different people, different cultures, foods, music, even the way they dress is different from the way we dress here. And so, therefore, we have to understand that, leave our assumptions, our bias aside, and just treat people like we want to be treated, but learn. It's all about learning. Thank you so much.